Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this. Hello. We've made it to the third and final installment of ranking Gord and Lightfoot's albums. I've mentioned both times before, we're talking about all of his official studio output, um, as well as two authorized hits that he had a hand in, and uh, two live albums. And so comprising a total of 24 albums. And I have a couple other things to talk about too, which I hope you'll find interesting and go check out. Um, I have absolutely loved the interaction I've had with a number of you for ranking these albums, and in almost every case, either your top has been different than mine or complete different order. Um, Leading up to number one. The conversations have been great. You know, I dealt with my first internet troll on the last video, um, and it really ticked me off. It didn't hurt as much as it just annoyed me to no end. It was an established account. I thought, who does this person think they are? I was going to go into the details. I'm not. It's not worth the time. But suffice to say, listen, guys, I'm just in it for the fun of this, to talk about the music I really love. I have a bunch of different genres that I've talked about, and a lot more I'm going to talk about. Um, I'm not even a small fish. I'm a minnow in an ocean of YouTube. And so it's not worth slinging insults and being rude. I don't appreciate it. I'm not going to put up with it on my page. I wouldn't do it on any of your pages or anything you like. Um, to put it a little crassly, I don't want to crap on anybody's art, and I don't want you crapping on mine. It's not okay. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, and hopefully there won't be any more, here we go. This covers 1983 to essentially 2000, because he hasn't put any material out this year, and so I've covered 16 albums. There are only 8 more to go from 1983 to now. We're talking 38 years. Um, Gord was at one point one of the most prolific recording artists and songwriters. And uh, once his contract was up, even after that, or slightly before that, I mean, he slowed down. He went through some incredible personal upheaval. He had gone through a nasty divorce earlier in life, lost contact with his kids, had a tumultuous love affair that I mentioned in the last video. Um, in the early '80s, he lost a long-term relationship, and a child, not even a toddler, less than a year old. His lover took their child and left him. He was so Barry Keane, who we mentioned a lot in the last one, his phenomenal drummer, put it best. He said, Gord didn't like to party as much as he liked to drink, and drink cost him pretty much everything. And he eventually sobered up. He made the last album from our last series, 1982, called Shadows, which I love that album. I love all those ones. But anyway, and so once he got sober, I think he started putting things in perspective. He toured, but he didn't record nearly as much. He started focusing on him, and he did a lot of canoe trips and all kinds of fun stuff. And so anyway, we're down to the final 8, and it covers a lot of time, not and I guess a lot of musical ground, depending on how you look at it. So coming in at number 8 from 1983 to 2020 is, and this might be sort of predictable and easy to pick on, um, but it's Gord's Gold Volume 2, and you can see also we're into the CD era now, and so a lot of what I'm going to be presenting is on CD, only because it's not available on vinyl. In this case, there's actually an extra song on the vinyl. There was 17 songs. Here there are 18. Um, the reason this is so low, I love this track listing, you know. If It Should Please You, Endless Wire, Hang Dong Hotel Room, I'm Not Supposed to Care, High and Dry, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, The Pony Man, Race Among the Ruins, Christian Island, All the Lovely Ladies, Alberta Bound, Cherokee Bend, Triangle, Shadows, Make Way for the Lady, Ghosts of Cape Horn, Baby Step Back, and the new song at the time, It's Worth Believing, new in 1988. The problem is most of these, 75% or more, are re-records, and they're just not as essential as the re-records done on Gord's Gold. And so they're fine performances. You can see Gord, by this point, you know, here he looked to be in great shape. He had slimmed down quite a lot. He'd quit his drinking. His voice was in absolutely fine form. But to re-record and try and recapture the magic on the Edmund Fitzgerald just didn't do it for me. That said, I have a lot of these songs on my iPod, and I listen to this. This is a great one to put in. It's a really good introduction, but it's well worth digging a whole lot deeper than Gord's Gold Volume 2. So it's number 8, not because it's bad. It's a lot of great songs on here, but it was just... I'm sorry, you may disagree, and if you do, again, please do so respectfully. It's not as essential as the re-recording on the first. Didn't see the point. Number 7, and I might catch flack for this one too, because this has quite a following of its own. It took me quite a while to get used to this one. I have a Instagram friend. His name is John Silvers. John Silvers Music. Check him out. He does a lot of soundtracks and ambient music. He's incredibly talented. Plays a lot of stringed instruments. His music is very soothing. So John Silvers Music. Check him out on Instagram. Go follow him on his social media pages. But this one he seemed to have a particular fondness for, so I almost feel bad saying this. But number 7 is East of Midnight from 1986. And the reason it's lower in the ranking is 100% the production of this. The songs on here are every bit as good as anything he had been doing. Stay Loose is a great one. The opener, the title track, Anything for Love is Beautiful, Let It Ride. Gord was asked back in early 2020, just before everything shut down, you know, what would be a song of his that wasn't a hit, but he thought should have been A Passing Ship, which is the second from the last song on here. Gordon Lightfoot, as we discussed in the last two videos, is a locomotive of a rhythm guitar player. His rhythm guitar is nowhere to be found on here. It's completely smooth. It's totally AOR. Cringe saying this, but it's basically sort of adult contemporary easy listening music. And Gordon Lightfoot, although on the mellower side, is not an easy listening artist. And so it's the production of it. The songs, stellar. Production, I hear the live versions of these recorded later, killer. So his voice was great. The songs were great. I can't do the easy listening thing for this album. That said, it's grown on me. The first time I listened to it, I went, oh, maybe I'm not a fan of everything he did. But then I listened again and again and again, and sure enough, for what it is, it grew on me. And so I don't recommend starting there because it's not a representative album of his entire catalog. But once you're into the catalog, check it out. Speaking of 2020, number 6 is from 1983 to 2020 is Solo. And this was released in 2020. I was extremely excited when this was announced. It's for the first time ever, just Gord and his guitar. There's an intimacy here. His voice, by this point, is not what it once was, but there's something very endearing about it. There's something sweet about the songs and the presentation. Yeah, oh, so sweet, emotion, better run off, return into dust. Do you walk, do you talk, just a little bit, easy flow, dream drift, the laughter we seek, why not give it a try? 10 songs, perfect LP length. I think the reason this is lower is knowing the background. Some of these songs, these are older recordings that he released, some he updated, but it just hasn't had the time to grow on me. A lot of albums are like that by legacy artists. They come out, they're, for all intents and purposes, they're great, but they just don't hold a place in your heart or in your psyche the way some of the older ones do. So again, here's one not necessarily to start with, but it's more representative of his catalog, only in the sense of the stripped down, the acoustic guitar playing. He still got it. Gord still has that magic. And so, again, a very likable album. Not the place to start, but definitely one that once you're into his music, really recommend checking this one out. So there's 3. So, number 5 out of 8 from 1983 to 2020. This one, when I first heard it, it's part of a bunch of CDs I picked up, and I really like it because he covers Bob Dylan on here, and so you've got to know where I'm going. This is 1992's, I'm sorry, 1993. I had it in my head wrong. Here you go. Waiting for You, 1993, still on Reprise Records. But he was under no contract to make them every year like he had been. So this was really kind of the first one where we started to hear the deep baritone sweetness of Gord's voice go. And a couple of people sort of have pointed out to me the production on this is a little hollow, and maybe Gord really didn't know how to record for the CD era at this point. But the title, or the opening song, became kind of a minor hit for him, Restless. Ring Them Bells. I love Dylan's version. It's originally on Oh Mercy from '89, which is one of my absolute favorite Bob Dylan albums. Dylan re-recorded it for the Unplugged album. Or no, it was on the Unplugged tour that he was playing, and I heard some tracks, and I went, oh, wow, that's great. And anyway, so this album, though, is overall very likable to me, even with the production not quite being what I would hope. Restless, Ring Them Bells, Fading Away, Only Love Would Know, Welcome to Try, I'll Prove My Love, I really like that one. The title track, Waiting for You, Wild Strawberries, I'd Rather Press On, and the closing song I really like, Drink Your Glass Is Empty. Y-E-R, Drink Your Glass Is Empty. This is a pretty solid effort. He'd been sober for a while. He looked pretty good. The voice was starting to give just a wee bit. But everything you know and love about Gord is here. And so this comes in at number 5 of 8 for the period we're talking about. Now we're into albums that I really, really enjoy. And this one came as a little shock and was almost a precursor to what was going to come after it. This one, we're going back to 1983, Salute. I really enjoy this album. It's interesting because he sort of had forsaken the acoustic guitar for the electric at this point. It's a real nice picture there. This is the second sober album. It almost looks like he's sitting, I'm not sure if that's Massey Hall or where, but he's sitting in back of a theater on a guitar case, an acoustic guitar case, but yet it's electric here. I love the upbeat title track, Salute, a lot more living to do. Got Got to Get Away, Whispers of the North is just beautiful. Someone to Believe in, Romance, Knotty Pine. That's an interesting one. It's just Gord with his guitar and then a synthesizer. Biscuit City, kind of funny. Without You, Tattoo and Broken Dreams. This is really, to me, one of Gord's most overlooked albums, I think. Because he wasn't selling a lot of records, especially outside of Canada anymore at this point. And it's an electric album, much more than acoustic. But you know what? There's a beauty in a lot of these songs, and again, at this point, it is very subjective to personal taste and what touches us most for what we're listening to and what we're listening for. And so I'm going to guess my number one from this period when we go forward is not going to be your number one. But it's, it's just one of those things. So number 3, and this might rank a little higher for some of you. And here is the only official live album from this period. This one actually is available on a limited run of LP pressing, Gord and Lightfoot All Live. All tracks recorded between 1998 and 2001 at the historic Massey Hall. So he only has 2 live albums, and they're both at Massey Hall in Toronto, which we discussed way back in the first video. I'm not going to go into it a whole lot, but one of the finest concert venues in all of North America, if not the world. And so the sound on here is great. My critiques, and there have to be some, is take, for example, the closing song, Old Dan's Records. There's no banjo. He uses keyboard to fill a lot of other instrumental parts that he didn't, but it's a stripped down affair overall. But listen to this sound track listing. 14 Karat Gold, If You Could Read My Mind, Fine as Fine Can Be, which we've discussed as my favorite Gord ballad, just beautiful. Baby Step Back, Early Morning Rain, Restless, A Painter Passing Through, Rainy Day People, Ringneck Loon, Shadows, Sundown, Carefree Highway, Christian Island, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Canadian Railroad Trilogy, Let It Ride, Blackberry Wine, Song for a Winter's Night, and Old Dan's Records. That... I don't know if it's hard to pick a perfect set list, but that's pretty darn close. Missing a few of my favorites, but whatever. So the critiques are also on, at first I thought I was losing my mind. On Carefree Highway, he cuts an entire verse, and he had started doing that years before to try and compress the show and get more songs, and I personally would rather take one less song at the end to hear the entire story of all these songs. So, but it's his show. They're his songs. It's not like he's the first and won't be the last to reinvent the lyrics to his music. So number 3 out of 8 from 1983 to 2020 is Gord and Lightfoot All Live, recorded at Massey Hall between 1998 and 2001. So yeah, now we're up to the top 2, and you're sitting there going, I wonder if you know his discography. You're sitting there going, how are these the top 2, and which one's going to be number 1? And it's one thing that separates second from first here. So number 2 is from 1998. It's absolutely lovely album called A Painter Passing Through. And it might be the most representative of Gord's latter-day work, actually. The song Drifters, My Little Love, Ringneck Loon is such a Canadian song. I Used to Be a Country Singer has a bit of humor to it. Boathouse, much to my surprise. I love the title track, Painter Passing Through. On Yonge Street, which for the uninitiated to Toronto, Yonge, Yonge Street. Which is the main drag where all the action happened for downtown and still pretty much happens. Red Velvet, and then a take on an old fairy tale called Uncle Toad. It's late at night, I'm sorry. Uncle Toad Said. This one has a really good production on it. The songs are really strong. There's a lot more focus on Gord's playing and the songs themselves. There's very little out of place here, if anything. So, number 2, extremely strong effort. A Painter Passing Through from 1998, which can only leave 2004, and this is what Gord thought was actually going to be his final album, Harmony. Now, for those who don't know, this album was compiled based on demos that he'd recorded he recorded these in the late 90s and very early 2000s. September 2002, he was doing a homecoming gig in Orillia, Ontario, when he had an aortic aneurysm. So basically his vessels burst going to his heart, and it kills, 95 to 98% of the people who suffer it. We always go back to Barry Keane, the drummer, Gord's longtime drummer, one of his best friends. He showed up for rehearsal, said, "Where's Gord?" And they said, "Oh, he's in his dressing room." And he went back there, and Barry found Gord and Lightfoot face down on the ground, not moving. If it had been even just moments later, Gord and Lightfoot wouldn't be with us. And Gord has not been... He's had a little other, or a few other health scares, but that, of course, was the major and the most terrifying one. So while he was laying in the hospital, once he recovered, he was out for, I forget, he missed a whole month or more. He was unconscious. When he came to, he decided he needed to stay busy and get to work. So the guys from the band came and visited him, and they discussed it. And so he was in a hospital in Hamilton, Ontario, and they used a studio there. And they basically assembled their parts, and when they were done, they would bring the recordings to Gord at the end of the day for what they had layered over his guitar parts and vocals. And so 2 of these songs are live, of course, at Massey Hall. No Hotel and Inspiration Lady. But there's a beauty in this. There's knowing the backstory, and you can see there too, Gord did not necessarily look really healthy after this. He thought he was going to die, and he thought this was going to be the last album. Thankfully, it wasn't. We ended up getting solo much later, but the title track opens here. It's beautiful. Flying Blind, make no mistake about it. The End of All Time, Shellfish. The No Hotel is a live track. He tells a very funny story, including run-in with Sting, taking place down in the rainforest in the Amazon down there. I mentioned Inspiration Lady, Clouds of Loneliness, Kuchaching, which is an homage to his hometown of Orillia, and Sometimes I Wish closes it out. You'll notice I missed a track. I purposely did not mention it because from 1983 through 2020, River of Light on here is my favorite Gord and Lightfoot song of the last 38 years. And that's saying a lot because there are some killer songs. Take away the live album, the re-recorded hits. There are 6 studio albums. To pick out one single song you might think is impossible. No, I have to tell you, the nights when I play this, or when I play my Gord and Lightfoot playlist on my iPod, I will repeat the song 2, 3, even 4 times. I always wait till it's a little after dark. It's a magical, mystical song. And if you haven't heard it, which the people watching this probably have, play River of Light. Just the turn of the phrase, the pronunciation, the enunciation of the words he has on it. There's something that touches me deep in my soul when I listen to that song. So, number 1 from 1983 through 2020 is 2004's Harmony. I mentioned too that I was going to have a couple of other... Empty water bottle got knocked over. A couple of other things really to mention just quick. Um, I'm not sure if Gord had anything to do with this in an official capacity, but it's one of the only legit hits collections that has come out, and so I'll mention it. This was actually my first Gord and Lightfoot CD. The title is always misleading. Complete Greatest Hits. There is no Complete Greatest Hits of Gord and Lightfoot, really, on a single disc version. But this has 20 songs. I originally picked it up just because I wanted to hear Sundown and Carefree Highway. This was back in 2002, when you were, really before downloading happened, certainly before streaming, so you bought a CD for a couple of songs. And then I ended up liking a couple more here and there. But this was, if you have never listened to or bought any of Gord's albums and you're new or you want to introduce your friends to him, this goes all the way back to Early Morning Rain, goes up through Restless, touches on 18 absolutely fantastic songs between the two. Got a very young Gord walking down the railroad tracks on the back. So this is an official and legitimate hits collection, unlike all the subpar garbage that United Artists continues to try and push to this day. Gord actually got royalties from this. And then the one that I thought my Gord and Lightfoot collection was complete last year. Turned out I was wrong. There was a 4-disc set that had gone out of print, but it's back available again, and I was so, listen to me, I'm so giddy it's stupid. So giddy to get Songbook. It is a 4-disc, 88-track collection. Every hit you could possibly want. Many of the album tracks, and 16 previously unreleased tracks spanning his entire recording career from 66 through A Painter Passing Through at the time. So this came out in 99. I can't say much more about it, but I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you want to take the plunge into Lightfoot and go deeper, you're not sure which album to start with, but you want to go deeper than just either Gord's Gold 1 or 2 or the Complete Greatest Hits, then trust me, this is not that expensive to buy. It's got a great booklet. Gord was heavily involved in this. This is an official product from the Lightfoot Trust. Again, 4 CDs, 88 songs. This, you settle into this. I'll warn you, once you start, it is really hard to stop. You want to say, oh yeah, what came next? And then to hear the unreleased songs, 16 tracks, basically an album to an album and a half's worth of unreleased material on here. To me, if there's nothing new on there, it's really not worth buying. 16 tracks are, to go all the way through from the earliest days through 99, you got to get this. So anyway, there we have it. Another long video. It's hard for me not to prattle on about Gord and Lightfoot and his music because, again, it has meant so much to me over the years. And from the reactions I've gotten, his music has meant and still means a lot to you guys out there too. So this one's a little harder just because the material isn't as familiar to most, certainly the casual fans, but even some of the diehards are not as familiar with these albums. They're all worth checking out. As I said in parts 1 and 2, I can put any of these on, be completely happy, totally satisfied listening to it. So thank you all. Thank you for your kind words, for your attention. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, where you rank these. If you only have some of them, how do you rank them? Your thoughts if you go back and listen and you hear some of them. So drop me a note on YouTube or on my social media pages. Find me on Instagram and let me know what you think. So until next time, I've got a lot of ideas. I'm not quite sure where to go. This was just kind of the big project, like, done. So anyway, take care, everyone.